Right now on Inside Texoma, we are taking a look at some holiday traditions this time of the year, including Christmas, the history of Santa Claus, Rudolph, even the Christmas tree. We are also going to be taking an inside look at Hanukkah. And joining me now for a little bit more is Rabbi Danny Kislin. And can you just kind of give everyone at home maybe a sneak peek of what we're going to be talking about?
Well, we're going to talk about the candelabra, as we call it in Hebrew, the menorah. We'll also talk about the tradition of giving presents. And we'll also talk about the game of dreidel, something that is an ancient tradition which still exists to this day.
It's something you definitely don't want to miss. It all starts right now on Inside Texoma. Good morning, Texoma, and Merry Christmas. I'm Ashley Fitzwater. December is a time of festivities filled with many celebrations of faith. We start this morning with a look at Christmas, a holiday filled with numerous traditions. It's a both sacred religious holiday and a worldwide cultural and commercial phenomenon. Christians celebrate Christmas Day as the anniversary of the birth of Jesus. And as many of us know, it includes popular customs like exchanging gifts, decorating our Christmas trees, attending church, and sharing meals with family and friends. Oh, and of course, waiting for Santa Claus to arrive before the morning of December 25th. But you may be surprised to learn there is much more about a man in red than just a jolly laughing sleigh. He's often described as the jolly guy with the white beard and red suit.
Merry Christmas!
But in the early days, Santa didn't want to be known. St. Nicholas was born in Asia Minor, which is now modern-day Turkey. He was a rich person and traveled the country helping people. And to keep his identity secret, St. Nicholas gave money and others presents late at night. So children were told to go to sleep quickly, very familiar to today, or he wouldn't come. St. Nick, who would later become a bishop, also played a role in stockings. One of the best-known St. Nicholas stories is that he helped three poor sisters. Their father couldn't give anything to his three daughters on their wedding day, so as their stockings hung by the fire one night to dry, St. Nick dropped bags of gold into them, and children have been hanging stockings on Christmas Eve ever since, all hoping for some good stuffers. And as we know, Santa always delivers. Santa started visiting good boys and girls in America toward the end of the 18th century. Gift-giving mainly centered around children and has been an important part of the Christmas celebration since the holiday's rejuvenation in the early 19th century. Stores began to advertise Christmas shopping in 1820, and by the 1840s, newspapers were creating separate sections for holiday advertisements. Sound familiar? And many of those ads often featured Mr. Claus. In 1841, thousands of children visited a Philadelphia shop to see the life-size Santa Claus model. After that, it was only a matter of time before Kris Kringle himself began to attract children and parents to different stores and later on malls. And as we know, Santa loved to help the poor. In the early 1890s, the Salvation Army needed money to pay for the free Christmas meals that they provided to the needy families. So with old St. Nick's permission, they began dressing up unemployed men in Santa Claus suits and sending them into the streets of New York to solicit donations. And those familiar Salvation Army Santas have been ringing bells on the street corners of American cities ever since. So what about his famous sidekick, Rudolph? Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer. Well, you know Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and Vixen. And of course, every little kid knows the ninth reindeer, oh Rudolph. He's the most famous reindeer of all and was born over 100 years after his 8 flying counterparts. The red-nosed wonder became known to the public thanks to Robert L. May, a copywriter at the Montgomery Ward department store. Now in 1939, Robert May with Montgomery Ward Company created a poem about Rudolph, all for a promotional reason. Many felt he could relate to Santa's favorite, old Rudolph. because he was often taunted as a child for being shy, small, and slight. So he wrote about the famous reindeer, describing his shiny red nose that helped him become a hero one foggy Christmas Eve. A copy of the poem was then given out for free to Montgomery Ward customers. And 10 years later, the song Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was written, so boys and girls all over could learn about the reindeer at the North Pole. And know that he was initially rejected by the other reindeer who wouldn't let him play in their reindeer games, all because of his strange nose. Now, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is the most popular holiday song next to White Christmas. And just a side note for you, Frosty the Snowman is another holiday classic. The song about the happy, jolly soul was released in 1950, followed by the CBS animated movie in 1969. That movie tells boys and girls all about the magical silk hat and Christmas snow. It's the centerpiece of many homes, the Christmas tree. A look at how the tree adorned with lights and ornaments became a household favorite. And an inside look at the significance of the candy cane and why the sugary treat is such a holiday staple. It's all next on Inside Texoma. Each year, 30 to 35 million real Christmas trees are sold in the United States alone, making the Christmas tree a centerpiece to say the least. But how did the tradition of cutting down a tree and adorning it with lights and ornaments come into play in America? It used to be viewed as a pagan German ritual until a fashionable queen helped make it a popular tradition. Evergreen branches were used to light homes during the dark days of winter solstice. Germany once called them paradise trees. Germans are actually credited with starting the Christmas tree tradition, as we know it, all back in the 16th century. That's when devout Christians brought their decorated trees into their homes. Many decorated them with apples to represent the Garden of Eden. Some built Christmas pyramids of wood and decorated them with evergreens and candles if wood was scarce. It's believed that Martin Luther, the 16th century Protestant reformer, first added lighted candles to a tree. The story is that he was walking toward his home one winter evening, composing a sermon, when he was awed by the brilliance of stars twinkling in mist evergreens. To recapture the scene for his family, he placed a tree in the main room and wired its branches with lighted candles. In America, the first record of one being on display was in the 1830s by the German settlers of Pennsylvania. Although most Americans saw Christmas trees as pagan symbols and didn't accept them. But in 1846, Queen Victoria and her German Prince Albert were sketched in the Illustrated London News, standing with their children around a Christmas tree. Victoria was very popular, and what she did immediately became fashionable. Not only in Britain, but with the fashion-conscious East Coast American society. Finally, the Christmas tree had arrived. By the 1890s, Christmas ornaments were arriving from Germany, and Christmas tree popularity was on the rise. Europeans used small trees about 4 feet in height, while Americans liked their Christmas trees to reach from floor to ceiling, much like today. The early 20th century saw Americans decorating their trees mainly with homemade ornaments, while the German-American sect continued to use those apples, nuts, and cookies. Popcorn joined in after being dyed bright colors and interlaced with berries and nuts. And electricity, it brought about Christmas lights, making it possible for Christmas trees to glow for days on end. With this, Christmas trees began to appear in town squares across the country, and having a Christmas tree in the home became an American tradition. Another interesting fact as you decorate or enjoy your tree this Christmas, there are 21,000 Christmas tree growers in the U.S. Now, their trees usually grow for about 15 years before they're sold. As for the artificial tree, it's said that a U.S.-based toilet bowl brush manufacturer, the Addis Brush Company, is to thank. Now, the company created an artificial tree from brush bristles in the 1930s that has acted as the prototype for modern artificial trees.
Pretty interesting.
It's a tasty, sweet treat that has a lot of meaning that many may not even realize. The candy cane is one of the most often seen symbols of Christmas. But how did this seasonal candy get its familiar shape? And when did it become a part of Christmas tradition? When the practice of using Christmas trees became popular in Europe, the people there began making decorations for their trees. As we know, many of the decorations were food items, including cookies and candy. In the 17th century, straight white pieces of sugar candy were popular, but in 1670, as part of a Christmas celebration at one cathedral, the choir master had the sticks of candy bent into the shape of a shepherd's crook and then passed them out to children who attended the ceremonies. This became a popular tradition and spread quickly, and the use of candy canes on Christmas trees made its way to America by the 1800s. However, during this time, they were still pure white. It wasn't until the early 20th century that the familiar red stripes appeared. Now, many people have given religious meaning to the shape and the form of the candy cane, saying its shape is like the letter J in Jesus, and that it's also in the shape of the shepherd's crook, symbolic of how Jesus, like the Good Shepherd, watches over his children like little lambs. It's also said that the candy cane is a hard candy, solid like a rock, like the foundation of the church. And the flavor of peppermint is similar to another member of the mint family, hyssop. In the Old Testament, hyssop was used for purification and sacrifice, and this is said to symbolize the purity of Jesus and the sacrifice that he made. But that's not all the white part of the candy represents. It also represents the purity of Jesus and his virgin birth, while the bold red stripe represents God's love. And if you look closely, there are also 3 fine stripes. They are said to represent the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. But others believe they represent the blood spilled at the beating Jesus received at the hands of Roman soldiers. No doubt it's made quite a change from its plain early beginnings to its familiar shape and color today, making the candy cane a symbol of Christmas and, for many, a reminder of the meaning of the holiday.
Still ahead on Inside Texoma, we're taking a look at the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah and how a miracle from centuries ago is the reason why the holiday is celebrated today. The very latest from a Texoma rabbi and the significance of the menorah is after the break.